Hey, glad you're with us. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Matt.
And if you're new to Harbor, we want to say a special hello and welcome.
If you're with us online, click the link below. If you're with us in person at church, scan that little QR code in front of you on the chair to let us know you're here with us, because we'd love to send you a gift for being part of Harbor today.
Now it's time to get into service.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
All right. Who's awake? Who's with me? Are you here? Are you there? All right. Thank you guys for being here. Welcome to Harbor.Church. If you're tuning in online, thank you for doing that. If this is your first time here, maybe you're here for the first time in a long time or first time ever. This might be your first time in church ever, or you're checking us out on Facebook or Vimeo, something like that. Maybe you're just listening to this on the podcast. My name is Josh Adams. I'm the senior pastor here at Harbor.Church, and I am thrilled that you're with us. I'm so stoked that you guys are here as we are continuing into the second week of a series that we kind of decorated a little bit special for. We're going right into the next week of Shipshape, and this is a series where we're looking at all the different boating stories, if you will, of the Bible. Now, I had somebody last week be like, why did you do a boating series this late? Like, it's too late to go boating. We should have done this in the summer. And I went, one, shut up. And two, I didn't say that. I just didn't say that. I thought it. But no, I was like, it's not too late to go boating. It's September. How many of you feel like September is a fine month to go boating? Like, this is plenty acceptable. See, some people on my sides. All right, so those are your people like want to hang on to it. How many of you have already, it's September, but you've already moved on to the fall? How many of you've already moved on to the fall? Be honest. I know I just made fun of you. There's like 3 people. Okay. How many of you think that September is an acceptable time for pumpkins? Like, I've seen that starting to come out. So that's a little bit early. Okay, a little bit early. I know there's some people in here that are like already just like really into it. I saw people in here talking about Thanksgiving decorations. And that made me go, please don't jump the gun. We only have so much time here on the Cape to enjoy the weather as it is. Don't just get rid of it, because once Thanksgiving comes, then it's Christmas, and then it's months and months of nothing that we want. So let's just enjoy what we can. I think September is a perfect month for boating and water stuff. And man, we're going to have a baptism here in a couple weeks. And I think it's plenty good. Let's just hold on to the warmth and the enjoyment of what is this beautiful place that we live. And I think September works for that. And it works for a boating series. And last week we kicked off this series talking about the biggest boat in the Bible. It was the only boat known specifically for its size. It's really the only boat that we have measurements of for its size. And we're talking about the ark that Noah had all the animals come on. So last week was the biggest boat in the Bible. I thought we should follow it up with a conversation this week on the smallest boat in the Bible. So anybody got any ideas on what that might be? All right, so I promise you from here on out, after this weekend's message, the rest of the boats in this series are normal boats, okay? They're like boats, like transport boats and fishing boats, stuff like that. Some of the other normal, we'll call them normal boats, the boats you would expect. But the first boat last week was this giant boat for animals that God used to save Noah and his family and animals from the flood. Today, we're going to be talking about Moses and his little boat that he was saved in as a child. It's the smallest boat, the smallest floating object we have record of, and we're going to look at that. And if you're not familiar with that story, Moses is the hero of the Old Testament. He's one of the foremost founding fathers of the Israelites. He was their rescuer. They made a movie where Charlton Heston played him, for crying out loud. Only older people know what I'm talking about. Other people are like, who's Charlton Heston? But this is an iconic story. And Moses not only writes a lot of the Old Testament, he is seen as one of the premier champions of the Hebrews, of the Israelites. And his story, though, before he ever becomes a rescuer, before he ever becomes the one who takes the Israelites out of slavery, he's a little kid. And the story of his birth in the very beginning of Moses, we can actually learn something from. And a lot of people would skip over it because Moses is the guy that gets the 10 Commandments. Moses is the guy who, we just sang a song. Moses is the guy who stands at the Red Sea and God parts the Red Sea so Moses could walk right through it. We just sang that song, and Moses is the one that it's written about. Moses is the guy who helps the Israelites not only come out of bondage and slavery, but he takes them through the desert and gets them to the promised land. And so, man, Moses has a lot to him. But if you're going to understand the story in the beginnings of his birth, which is something I think many of you probably have never even heard, or if you've heard it, you might not have stopped to think about it. It's pretty impressive what it is that God does in this little baby's life. So before we get to Moses' birth, you need to have a little bit of a backstory. There were a few Hebrews, a few Israelites. There's a guy named Jacob who gets his name changed to Israel. And so Israel, this guy Israel, has 12 sons, and they become the 12 tribes of Israel. They're the heads of the 12 tribes of Israel. One of his sons, named Joseph, is actually sold into slavery into Egypt, and then while in Egypt, he earns favor with the Pharaoh and he goes through the ranks. He becomes the second most powerful man in Egypt, and then Egypt goes into a famine, and Joseph helps Egypt navigate the famine where they actually have food. And what that actually does is it brings all of Joseph's brothers and their wives and kids down to Egypt. There's about 70 of them, and they settle in Egypt, and the Pharaoh's like, if you're Joseph's friends, you're Joseph's family, you're friends of mine. He gives them land to settle in Egypt, and it's like a happy ending, right? You know, it's just this awesome story. But they continued to grow and multiply. And then we pick up the story in Exodus. So that's the end of Genesis. In Exodus, it says that they're growing so much and so fast that they're actually outnumbering the Egyptians because God was blessing them. And so in verse number 8, it says this in Exodus chapter 1. Eventually a new king, or Pharaoh, came to power in Egypt who knew nothing about Joseph. He forgot the good stuff. He didn't know why he should be nice to these Hebrews. It says he knew nothing about Joseph or what he had done to save Egypt. And then it says he said to his people, this is the Pharaoh talking here, hey, look, the people of Israel, they outnumber us, and they're stronger than we are. We have to make a plan to keep them from growing even more. If we don't, and if we don't keep them from growing strong, and if a war breaks out, they're going to join our enemies, and they're going to fight against us, and then they're going to escape from the country. I want to stop for a second because tonight's going to be a little bit different. Those of you that know, have been around for my preaching, I'm not going to put points up on the screen like I normally do. This is just us walking through a story. So if you're taking notes, the notes are on you, all right? The notes are on you today. Those of you that are watching online, don't wait for Bobby to throw up the slide. Just go like, oh, I like that, or oh, man, God's talking to me about this. If it stands out to you, go for it. Here's what stood out to me when I looked at this Pharaoh, gripped with fear. And I began to think about where we're at today. I see a man who doesn't appreciate what had happened for him growing up, or what had happened, what these people had done. The Israelites were actually friends and allies of the Egyptians. But this Pharaoh's fear turned his friends into enemies. His insecurity, because he allowed his mind to wander, his insecurity caused him to think up hypothetical situations where they could hurt him. Here's how it works today. The Bible says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, and yet Satan comes, and the Bible says that Satan is a liar and a thief and a destroyer, and his goal has always been to pull us away from God, to cause us to be afraid, to cause us to act in our fear, and he is having a heyday right now, and some of us, we are allowing our insecurity, we're allowing our fear. When we look at the world around us, we just begin to imagine things that could be wrong might possibly happen to us. And now we live in a state where we're no better than this Pharaoh. He makes enemies out of the very people that could have been his defenders. He comes up with a situation. If somebody attacks us, these guys are so close to us and they're so strong. What if they turn on us? Hey, Home Slice, how about saying, I got a buddy who's pretty strong, and somebody attacks us, I'm going back to back with him. He's going to kick your butt. Like, that's a better way to look at it. And instead, he's like, they could hurt us. Yes, there's a lot of things that could hurt, but your fear isn't meant to drive you to this level. And it says that he if you read all of it, he actually gets really, really wicked, really evil. We'll get to some of it here, but We sang in that song, the same song where it says, you split the sea. We sang that your perfect love casts out that fear. And this is where God talks to you and I, regardless of what you see around you, regardless of how your friends act, regardless of what's going on in your family, what you watch on the news, what somebody typed to you on a social media platform, regardless of all of that, God says that he hasn't called you to live afraid. Now, I get it. There's a lot of things that you're not sure about. Me too. There's a lot of things that cause us to worry. But to live in that fear, to live in that worry is not what God has for us. He says, hey, listen, you have to step up and go forward. That's what it means to be courageous. Doesn't mean you have no fear. It means you go on in spite of your fear. And this is what he says in 1 John chapter 4, verse number 18. He says, there is no fear in love. Some of us need to make this our mantra going forward. This is what we need to be holding on to as things get more and more ugly, as you watch more and more commercials and you watch more and more news. It's not going to be this way, but you and I should be known for being people that love others. It says there's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears has not been made perfect in love. And what that's saying is there's something in your heart when you get the choice to go, I'm either going to have faith or I'm going to have fear. If you keep choosing fear, you're not living in the perfect love that Christ shed for us. And it's not meant to make you embarrassed. It's meant to be a challenge. Like, okay, hey, I got to do something. I got to move forward in this. So he does it. Obviously, he makes some decisions. And I would also say this, just if you are taking notes, I would say that decisions that are made in fear will usually end up being remembered with regret. There's a lot of things I did out of fear that years later I went, boy, do I wish I hadn't done that. And that's just the way fear does things to us. Let's continue on in the story. It says, so the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. The very people that could have been a blessing to them, they end up enslaving them. And not just like, hey, you're going to be our servants. They make them like they're brutal. They make them slaves. It says they appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down with crushing labor. They forced them to build the cities of Pithom and Ramses as supply centers for the king. Now here's the cool part. It says, but the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread, and the more alarmed the Egyptians became. The more they tried to crush them, the better it was for them. The Bible says in the early church, after Jesus ascends into heaven, he sends his disciples out for 300 years. The emperors of Rome tried to crush Christianity, and the more they brutalized, the more they tormented, the more they martyred Christians, the more the church spread. God says, listen, it's like a perfume. When you crush it, it actually releases this beautiful aroma. I'm going to take something, when people try to beat you down, I'm going to do something beautiful by lifting you up. It's like the grapes. The more you crush the grapes, the better the wine you get. I know that doesn't appeal to everybody. Think about your favorite pair of sneakers. The more you run in, the more you break them in. And they're just comfortable, right? Right before they like fall apart, but just right there. Some of you still not with me. Let me put it this way. It's like a bag of Doritos, okay? Even if you break it and crunch it, it's just more Doritos. Like, it's just a lot of dust at the bottom. Oh, it's beautiful. It's like gold dust. Like, you can't go wrong. The more it's crushed, the better it is. Okay, but this is the part that I want you to see is that as much as people were against them trying to beat them down, the more God did to lift them up. It says in James chapter 1, verse number 2, it says, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. That verse is hard to put into practice. When troubles come, consider an opportunity for joy. You and I, we normally consider it an opportunity for complaining, whining, self-loathing, or pity. That's what we do. God says, how about you try being excited about it? Now, I know that's going to be really hard for some of you, but just practice it. Tomorrow at work, when your boss is like, hey, I'm going to need you to come in Saturday for those TPS reports, I want you to be like, sweet, working on Saturday, all right. Man, I was so hoping I could do that. Or something like that. I don't know. You fill it in. But it says, take it as an opportunity for great joy. Your boss will be like, I don't want her happy. I don't want him excited about. Don't come in on Saturday. Like, you might get out of it. I don't know. Reverse psychology. He says, for you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. so let it grow. When people are oppressing you, know that God is bigger than those people. And maybe today you're going to get hung up on this, like, oh, I've never been a slave in Egypt. I hope not. But like, what are the things that are rough in your life? Maybe it's not oppression by a person. Maybe you feel under the weight of a diagnosis. Maybe your own body is crumbling underneath of you. Maybe your finances are weighing down on you. Maybe you're being put down by something, a relationship that is broken. I don't know, but find where you become like the Israelites and where Satan is going, yes, if I can just crush her, if I can just get him a little bit more down there. Find that thing and go, no, God hasn't called me to be broken. God has got this. Even if somebody is trampling me, he's got something beautiful. He's going to come out of this. It says, let it grow. When your endurance is fully developed, when you get some thick skin, what happens? Well, then you'll be perfect and complete and you won't need anything. You won't need, everybody feel bad for me. Everybody feels sorry for me. You won't have to post as much on Instagram because you don't care if you get likes because you've got a thick skin. You're like, God's got me. He likes me. I don't even need it. I know. It hurts a little bit, but it's what we need. I heard a story. I actually heard this a long time ago. There was a donkey that fell into the well, and some of you probably heard this. He fell in the well, and it was pretty deep, and the farmer didn't have any tools to get him out. And he's like, well, I lost that donkey. He's like, I can't do anything. He said, I might as well just fill in the well and bury the donkey down there and keep the smell down there and keep anybody else from falling in. So he begins to shovel in the dirt, and you can imagine the donkey at the bottom, pile of dirt. I don't know, that's more of a horse. I don't know, a donkey. I don't know, you fill it in. I'm not an animal imitator, okay? But the donkey gets hit with the dirt. He's like, kind of disappointed that his friend up there is piling it on, but he just, shakes it off and it falls to the ground. And then another scoop comes down. He shakes that off. And as the story goes, the farmer just kept shoveling and the donkey just kept shaking. And eventually the dirt rose and the donkey walked out of the well. And it's like the great theologian Taylor Swift says, shake it off. Just shake it off. But I am being serious, and I think a lot of us in this way, we miss an opportunity when somebody begins to throw dirt on us, when somebody begins to do something to us, when we begin to experience a negative day, a circumstance, you fill in the blank, we don't shake it off. We carry it around and we go, whoa, look at me, look how bad I am. If God really loved me, he wouldn't let this happen to me. If God really cared, this thing wouldn't be happening. And what God may be doing is like, hey, listen, I'm not trying to crush you. I'm trying to give you a way out of the well. Shake it off. Let's go. This is actually going to make you stronger. Find a way to rejoice in it. Sweet, somebody's throwing down dirt. I'm going to get out of this well. Learn how to be happy in the middle of the misery. It says this in John 16:33. I have told you all of this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth, just know you're going to have trials and sorrows. You're going to have some rough time, but take heart. Come on, say take heart. Yeah, you guys are going to make it really far with that one. That was cool. Take heart. I'm tired. Take heart. That means like, come on, let's go. Say it with your chest. Like, do something. Be excited about the fact that God says, I know it's tough. I know it's rough. I know sometimes when you get out of bed, you're like, God, not another day. When you pull into work, you're like, I don't know if I've got it. I know there's times where you're like, this really sucks. And God goes, listen, I know it's rough right now, but take heart. Well, why should I take heart? Well, because I've already overcome the world. There's nothing you're going to face that I can't handle is what he's saying. And so the Egyptians began to really make it bad for the Israelites. Let me just say this in case you're not familiar with the story. 400 years they enslaved the Israelites. And it got really bad. It says at the end of Exodus chapter 1, then Pharaoh gave this order to his people, throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River. You can let the girls live. He says, I don't want these Israelites growing in any more strength. Let's take down their male population. So every newborn baby, he was having them murdered. Pretty ugly, pretty vicious, pretty hellish. And if you remember, I told you that Moses is a rescuer. Here's the best thing that you can see. And this is what I try to help my friends see that are Jewish. Moses is a beautiful picture of another rescuer coming in the future, one named Jesus. Moses rescues his people. Moses is known for being someone who sets people free, and yet his story starts with a royal decree to kill all the baby boys. Well, you know somebody else that was born into a royal decree to kill all the baby boys? In Matthew chapter 2, we see some wise men coming to find Jesus, trying to worship him. And when Herod finds out that these wise men heard about this new king being born, he says, hey, come tell me where this king is when you find him. But the wise men avoid him. And it says that when Herod found out, Herod was furious when he realized the wise men had outsmarted him. So he sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men's report of when the star first appeared. Moses and Jesus are both recorded as having their start with some of the most wicked, vile things happening, where all the baby boys were being murdered. And so it sets the stage that at the height of evil, they're already enslaved, they're already being beaten down, and now they're having their children taken from them and murdered. It says in the very next verse, about this time. I love the way the Bible tells us stories, because we read it quick, like we're not in it. God says, hey, when it got evil, and when at the height, you would say it can't get any worse. God says, I'm sending you a deliverer. I'm sending you some rescue. It says about this time, a man and a woman from the tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby, and she kept him hidden for 3 months. Now, obviously, we know what would have happened if they had found him, but a lot of people read this and be like, of course, everybody was hiding their babies. They weren't. Most of them were just giving their babies up to be murdered, because if you didn't, you would be murdered. And it was just a period of time where the Pharaoh was going to reduce the population. These two people, we later find out, Amram and Jochebed, those are the names of Moses' parents. They already had 2 kids. Moses has an older sister and an older brother, Miriam and Aaron. And if they get caught, the Egyptians probably would have killed all 3 of their kids, maybe even killed them, or what was common in the Egyptian culture, mutilated them. So to do what they're doing by hiding their baby, they're risking their entire family. They're risking a lot more than just one child. A lot of people were saying, hey, we'll just have another kid later, and that's how they justified it. But these two, they said, no, we're going to hide them. Very dangerous, very scary. They get recorded in the Hall of Fame of Faith book in Hebrews chapter 11. It says this in verse 23. It was by faith that Moses' parents hid him for 3 months when he was born. They saw that God had given them an unusual child, and they were not afraid to disobey the king's command. They said, God has given us a responsibility. We're going to own up to it, regardless of what it costs us. Now, I'm going to give a little sidebar here. Parents, if God has entrusted you with children, that is your responsibility. That is not somebody else's. That falls on you. Your job to protect them, to grow them, to train them, to raise them. I hope that you're not doing it alone. I know some of you in here would say, hey, I don't have kids, or my kids are grown. Listen, grandparents, you get a chance to change a child's story. Don't take that lightly, the influence you can have. Watch this quick poll. How many of you, positive or negative, were impacted by a grandparent? Positive or negative? Look at that. Now, I hope that those hands are because of positive impact. I know that that's probably not true all the way around, but grandparents, aunts, uncles, person who has no children and doesn't ever want to have children, I get it. You still get a chance to impact. God may still put you in the lives of some people to have an influence. And these guys said, Amram, and Jochebed, they said, hey, we're going to take care of our kid to this level. They said, we're not going to give in. We're not going to give in. It says in verse number 3, when she could no longer hide him. So she's trying to. If you've ever tried to hide a kid, it ain't easy. It ain't easy to hide him anywhere. Church, anywhere. I feel like crying right now. And the Israelites probably had Egyptians living in amongst them. So, I mean, like, can you imagine? It's one thing trying to get rid of the diapers, you know? And you're like, the neighbor's like, why are your trash stink so bad? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And now they're like, I heard some crying coming out of your house. You're like, ain't nothing. Like, it must be impossible to try to hide a baby. But they did it for 3 months. And then they said when they couldn't hide him any longer, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar inside and out. By the way, this word for basket here is only ever used one other time, and it was used to describe this. It's the same term to describe Noah's Ark. So they're both arks. Some people call it Moses' Ark and Noah's Ark. This definition of a boat, a carrying raft, because it was a vessel meant for salvation. It's what it was. Both of them. This basket made of papyrus reeds, pitched with tar in and out. And she put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. I want you to picture a mother putting her child into a basket. I want you to visualize what that must have been like to kneel down by the riverside and to put your kid in there. That river is known for vicious crocodiles, fast currents. People who did swim in it only swam in a few places because this is not a river to just be flippant with. But there's a mother, and she's got her teenage daughter, Miriam, Moses' older sister, was probably right around 14, 15 years old, and they're sitting there and they're saying goodbye. And they're putting him in there, and they put him in this basket that they've made, and then they just let go. I can't imagine what that must have been like. You can put the picture up. I can't imagine what that must have looked like, what that must have felt like to let go. Sometimes when our faith gets to the place that we don't know what's coming next, we just have to learn to let go. They weren't going to give in to what was wrong, but then they said, God, we can't do anything else. We have to trust you. In an area we can't do anything. We can't control this. We can't do it. They just had to trust God. And I'm talking trust God, because like once, I don't know if you've ever been on a boat. I love to go on a canoe trip, and every once in a while the canoe tips. Not my fault. But if it tips and you've got something that floats and it goes over, it's down the river and gone. You ain't catching it. You're like waddling through the water. It's just gone. And I feel like she's let go of that basket, and her fear is it's going to whoosh, be gone. There goes her little baby boy. And I thought about how often it is that God's called us to let go of the things that we love most so that our faith grows and so that he can actually do something. But as long as she held that basket, God's plan was never going to come. As long as she held on trying to do what she could do, make it in her power, as long as she held on to that, God's plan was never going to come out. She had to get to the place where she pried her hands open, and that basket, that little baby ark, that cradle floated, probably away from her a little bit. It's there in the reeds, and she's like, I hope, God, you've got this. I'm trusting you. It says in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse number 6, humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time he will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares for you. All your worries, all your cares, all the things you stress about, all the things you love, you fill in the blank here for you. As long as you have a death grip on the things that you think you control, God goes, I'm not in control then. You're not really trusting me. Let go of it. Trust me. And we're like, I do trust you, God, but I better hold on just in case. Just me? Just me? Okay. God, I know you said that you've got it, but I'll keep my finances and I'll give you if I have leftover. Oh, wait, you want me to just tithe? I don't know about that. God, I know that you said that I'm supposed to love everybody, but I don't think you realize how much I hate that person. So I'm just going to hold on to my love a little bit. And God goes, no, love everybody. God, I know you said that you count my days and you know how many minutes I have left of life and that I should give all of them to you and just be used by you. But you know what? My time is really tight and I've got a schedule to keep. So I'll work it in when I can work it in. He says, if you trust me, let go. Notice how it starts with the word humble. It takes humility to say, my plan isn't the best plan. Now, I don't know if I'm surprising anybody here, but when you compare your plan to God's plan, your plan isn't the best plan. Have you told him that lately? Time out. He already knows. This is an exercise for you and I. Have you told him that your plan isn't as good as his, that you need his plan? This is what it says in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It's one of my favorite verses. I give it to you as often as I can. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Don't trust yourself. Don't depend on your ability. Well, if I let go of the basket at just the right angle, the current will take it right over here and it'll dodge it. And then maybe stop trying to figure it out because you can't figure it out. Any more than you can figure out how to float a baby safely in a river forever. You can't control the things that are happening in your life if you don't depend on your own ability. Then the next verse says, you just have to start seeking what his will is, what his plan is, and then he'll direct your path. But it requires letting go. Something we are universally bad at. It says next, the baby's sister, that we come to find out later is Miriam. She stood at a distance watching to see what would happen. So mom, maybe too heartbroken, she didn't want to see a tragedy. She didn't want to see the basket sink. She didn't want to see something happen. So she let go and she left, but sister stayed there. Maybe mom asked the sister. Maybe that was just her curiosity. I don't know. But Miriam stayed and watched from a distance, watching what might happen. Can you imagine how vulnerable that baby was? This is Egypt, guys. Hot. That baby's baking. Those crocodiles, the animals, the danger, the current, all the things. So vulnerable. And yet, because it was part of God's plan, Moses was never safer. I know it's hard to understand. If you don't have faith in God, what I said makes no sense to you. But I'm telling you, when you surrender your life to the God of the universe who spoke the planet into existence, he's not intimidated by currents or crocodiles. I love the way Matthew Henry said it. He's a theologian, does a lot of commentary. He says it this way: Moses never had a stronger protection around him. No, not when he had all the Israelites were camped around his tent in the wilderness. At one point, he becomes the leader, and he has an entire army surround his tent because he was the most valuable asset. He had thousands and thousands of strong men protecting him at one point in his life, and he wasn't as safe then as he was when he was a baby in God's hands, when he lay alone, helpless babe upon the waves. It says this, here's some more of the story, just so I don't leave you hanging if you haven't heard it. Soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. And when the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it for her. And when the princess opened it, she saw the baby. And the little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This must be one of the Hebrew children, she said. This reminds me of the verse that we came to embrace during our quarantine time, and that's Romans 8:28. Romans 8:28 tells us that all things work together for good to those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose. We like this part. We know that everything works together for good. We like that, but it's hard to embrace that. Because right now in your life, you might be going, I don't see the junk I'm going through working out for good, Pastor Josh. Do you know the stuff that's happened in my life? Do you know the things that people have done to me? Do you know how I've been hurt? Do you know the diagnosis that I'm staring at? Do you know the depression I'm dealing with? Do you know the fears that are creeping up? Do you know, Pastor? I don't, and I'm sorry. I don't, but I know God does. And God says that when you're called to his purpose, he takes even the worst of the worst and he turns them for good. Now, it's hard for us to imagine it because it'd be hard for Jochebed to imagine, I'm letting go of my baby in a basket. There's no way this could be good. There's no way, God, that this could ever work out for me. How could I ever just release my baby and imagine in a million years that something good could happen? Because it doesn't make sense to us the way God works. And what God says, he says, hey, trust me. I've got a plan. I've got this. I'll work everything out for good. And you might say, oh, well, she just got lucky. She didn't get lucky. Because the God who controlled his parents' hearts to hide him, and he gave them that courage to hide him, is the same God that gave her discernment in how to build that basket. He's the same God that gave her the placement in the water. He's the same God that holds the currents back. He's the same God that shut the mouth of the crocodiles. He's the same God that moved the maids to see the baby. He's the same God that broke the princess's heart when that baby cried. The same God that took care of Moses all the way back then has got a message for you, and the message is he loves you and he's taking care of you just as much as he's taking care of them. And what he wants is he wants your faith in him. He doesn't need all the rest. He just says, trust me, let go. I've got this. I think the timing, amazing. If the princess doesn't come down for a few hours, that baby's gone. He knew right how to get it. And then Moses crying at just the right time. Because she's been trained. Her dad is the one that issued the decree to kill the babies. But when she lifted that lid up, you can put the picture up. When she lifted that lid up, that little baby starts screaming. There's something about a crying baby. The first time you go, oh. The 50th time, you're like, it's your turn. But it broke her heart, and she went, oh, man. She was predispositioned to be racist and hate that child, and yet God pricked her heart just enough. She goes, this baby, he's kind of cute. She says, oh, this must be one of the Hebrew children. And then immediately when she says that, Moses' sister jumps out of the weeds, and she says, hey, princess, should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse this baby for you? I'm just here to help. I just happened to hear what you said. You found a random Hebrew baby? None of my business. But I bet you there's a random Hebrew mom out there. She said, would you like me to go get one of those Hebrew ladies to nurse this baby? She asked. Yes, please do. The princess is like, that's a good idea. Please do. So the girl went and called the baby's mom. She went and got Jacobin. She's like, Mom, you're never going to believe this. She goes, come back. Pretend you don't know this baby, though. You got to pretend you don't know it. Pretend. And you got to imagine that mama's heart is like, whoop, 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 whoop. She's like, oh, it's a nice baby. I guess I can take it for you, I guess. This is what the princess says. Take this baby and nurse him for me. Oh, and I'll pay you for your help. Which also, by the way, gave her the princess's authority. Ain't nobody gonna touch that baby now. She got paid to do the very thing she was trying to hide a day earlier. Do you understand how listen, Hollywood can't create something this good. She's like, please don't cry, how are we gonna hide it? Then she walks back, she's like walking through town like, shut your mouth, Karen. Princess says I gotta take care of this baby. Cry all you want, honey. Cry nice and loud. I don't know that it was like that. I'm just imagining. But she got commissioned from the princess. She got paid to do. I know some of you are new parents. You ain't never going to get paid to take care of diapers and nurse and all that stuff. Just know this is a one time only but it's God kind of going, I told you to trust me. Watch it. I got this. Watch how I got this. And then it says that she was given the job by the princess. The princess commissioned it. I think we misunderstand sometimes because God allows people to be in control. There are leaders and politicians and kings and pharaohs and emperors throughout the history of this book and mankind that have just been evil and bad. It says in Colossians 1:16, some of you need to remember this verse because the elections are coming and you're going to forget it, and I want you to remember it. It says, for by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether it's thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things were created through him and for him. The Bible also says that God controls the heart of the king. It shouldn't surprise us that the king, the Pharaoh, says, throw all the babies in the river. It's his own verdict. It's his own evil rule The decree that he makes, the decree that says, let's kill all those babies, is the very reason that this baby is where it is when his daughter finds it. And everybody knows, whether you're a real princess or just daddy's princess, when you're like, Daddy, can I keep it? Like, he was like, okay, just keep one Hebrew baby, that's fine. What harm could it do? It was the one thing that he was against, was the very thing that ended up being one of the adopted children of the court. It's amazing how it works. God controls it all. And if you put your hope in pharaohs and emperors and presidents and elections, hear me out. Regardless of who wins, you're going to have problems. You will be disappointed. There is no person on this planet, whether they get elected or voted or anything, that is going to solve all your issues. Stop hoping that man will solve all your problems. God says, listen, whatever happens, you've got me, and I'm not fickle, and I'm not going to abandon you, and I'm not going to lie to you to get a vote and then do something different. He says, I've got you, and I don't care what side you're on or how many ever sides you got. This is what God is trying to teach us. And it says later, just so you hear the rest of the story, later, when the boy was older, probably about 2 years old, about when they were weaned, it says when the boy was older, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. The princess named him Moses, for she explained, I lifted him out of the water. Mesu is an Egyptian word that they've actually found that name recorded in hieroglyphics. It means to be pulled out, to be taken out. This guy Moses goes down as a child of the court of the Pharaoh, of the princess's own son. We don't know if she ever has legitimate sons. This one, she's probably the daughter of Ramses, is what they think, or Peti, which is another god there, or another Pharaoh there. She takes him in, and what this means is he gets one heck of an education. All the rest of the Hebrew boys, they're carving rocks and plowing fields, but not him. Acts chapter 7, verse 20 says this. At that time, Moses was born, a beautiful child in God's eyes. His parents cared for him at home for 3 months. When they had to abandon him, Pharaoh's daughter adopted him and raised him as her own. This is the New Testament recounting the story thousands of years later. Moses was taught all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was powerful in both speech and action. Josephus records that Moses, before he gets exiled out of Egypt, that he actually was a warrior. Now, we don't know if that's true, but their history says that Moses actually won some battles for the Egyptians against some of the Hittites and different ites all around there. And he was actually well known for that because he was strong. But what you need to understand is God was going to pick this child out and make him the leader of a new nation. And that's the one child that was taught leadership, mathematics, grammar, architecture. He was taught battle strategies. What other kid was ever going to get taught that? He learned the royal court, and then 40 years later comes back to be a member of the court, to dialogue back and forth with Pharaoh, to negotiate the release of his people. What servant, slave child was ever going to do that? Just the one that God says, hey, I got a plan. I got a plan. Watch what I'm going to do. Watch what I'm going to do with this guy. Moses, later on in his life, Moses says this, though. As awesome as Moses' story is, being saved in the river in a basket, Moses, after he grows up, God sends 10 plagues to harass the Egyptians. Finally, the Egyptians listen to Moses, and they release the people of Israel. They release all their slaves, all the Hebrews, all the Israelites. They leave Egypt. They walk into the desert. There's some really cool stories. You got to read the rest of the book of Exodus. Moses becomes one of the greatest leaders of all time. Of all time. And while he's talking to the people, he challenges them with this. It says in Deuteronomy 18, he says, Moses continued, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. Moses predicts that there would be another prophet coming like him. You know what it means, like him? All the other prophets you got in the Old Testament, they hear from God, but they hear from him in dreams. They hear from him in unique circumstances. God works through him. But Moses was known for talking to God. The burning bush, Mount Sinai. Moses had a connection with God that other prophets don't get. When he says there's going to be another prophet like me that talks to God, there's only one other prophet that came along that could talk to God like that, and that kind of face-to-face. And Moses didn't really face-to-face with God. Moses kind of like hid and kind of got to like talk to the back of God a little bit. When John the Baptist is on the scene, you can go read this in the book of John. They say, John, are you the prophet? Are you the one that we've been waiting for since Moses? Moses told us there was going to be an awesome prophet coming. Are you that prophet? And John says, no, I'm not that prophet. And then one day, Jesus takes a few fish and a few loaves of bread, and he breaks them apart. He begins to pass them out, and as they get multiplied, he begins to feed thousands upon thousands. And it's called the feeding of the 5,000, this miracle. And what it says in John chapter 6 is when the people saw him do this miraculous sign, they exclaimed, surely he is the prophet we've been expecting. And he was, because God used Moses to tell his people a story. God says, listen, you're in bondage, you're slaves, you're broken, you're trapped, you're stuck, you're miserable. I'm going to send somebody who is going to break those chains. He's going to release you. He's going to take you to a better place. This guy, Moses, I'm going to do something miraculous through so that you have a picture, so that when he says that there's another one coming, that you can be looking for him, because when I send my son, I want you to receive my son. Now, unfortunately, not everybody received Jesus. They weren't really looking at the picture, but what you got to understand is Moses was a small rescuer. Jesus, he's the big S Savior. What Moses did is he came and he released some physical chains. What Jesus does is he comes and he not only releases physical imprisonment, he releases us from emotional imprisonment. He releases us from mental chains. He releases us from the chains of our past. He releases us from sins big, so big that we're embarrassed and we hope nobody ever finds out, and so small that we have forgotten. He releases us from those kind of chains. When we talk about Moses going toe-to-toe with Pharaoh, that's kind of impressive, but we have a God who came down to earth and went toe-to-toe with Satan on our behalf. When you look at Moses as this small guy, he's like, yeah, I'm here to help. You got a comparison to the guy named Jesus who says, whatever Moses did on a small scale, I'm going to do for you on a grand scale, because I'm not just a man like Moses. I'm the Son of God. And when Moses leaves and walks through the desert and crosses the Red Sea, it's nothing in comparison to Jesus, who leaves heaven, crosses the galaxy, stretches out his hands across the universe and says, I've come across all of this for you, to save you, to set you free. This is what we're talking about. This is the God that we get an opportunity to know in the story of Moses in a basket, being saved from an evil Pharaoh's decree is the same as Joseph and Mary leaving Bethlehem with a baby Jesus to avoid Herod's decree. Because man-made plans are never going to prosper against us. As much as Satan wants to control it, as much as he wants to have you only see the evil in the world, God says, look, I'm at work. Your marriage feels pretty broken right now. It feels pretty hopeless, but I'm at work. Hey, that struggle you're having, it seems like you've been beaten down, but I've actually got something better for you. That addiction that you can't seem to say no to, I've got hope for you. I've got help coming. That problem, that thing, that you name it, it feels like babies being tossed in the river. It feels like 400 years of slavery. God says, listen, I know it's heavy, but I've got it. I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know who needs to be reminded that the God of the universe knows you so well that he has counted the hairs on your head, and he says, what hurts you hurts me, and I'm here to heal you. I'm here to save you. And if you'd say, Pastor Josh, I've already put my faith in God. Let me ask you, where do you live it out? Because if you're set free, I promise you, there's somebody near you that isn't. I promise you got a family member, a friend, you've got a child, you've got a parent, you've got a coworker, you've got a neighbor who's still living in chains, and God has put you to be the Moses in their life, the one who says, hey, listen, God's got a plan. God can work through me. I know he can work through you. You're one of those two people. You're waiting to be set free, or you've been set free, and now you got to go help other people get free. You're one of those two. What are you going to do with the story of Moses? What are you going to do with the prophet who came after Moses, who superseded Moses? And when asked, Jesus said this, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody gets to the Father but by me. Jesus said, I'll lay down my life and cover your sin to make a bridge between you and God, but the bridge has to be Jesus. The bridge can't be you doing all your own good works, you making it on your own, you figuring it out. It's got to be the way. Because he was more than just a prophet. He's more than just a good guy. He was the lifeline for you and I to have an actual relationship with the God of the universe. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to leave here with? What are you going to respond to God with when he says, I'm going to set you free? Those chains have been holding you on. You're my daughter. You're my son. They've been crushing you. I know what you're struggling with. I know what's in your mind. I know what's on your heart. I know what's going on in your background. I know what your history has. I'm here to set you free. Are you going to believe that? Or are you going to be like the people who said, I don't think this is for me? Some are set free and some never are. It's your choice. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, I ask that you would just work in an amazing way in our lives. God, I ask that you would help us. Help us as we think about what you have for us. Help us as we look to a story of Moses to see that you provide this, to see how things can get heavy and dark, and yet, God, you tell us that you've got it. And so, God, we need to not be discouraged today. We need to be excited. We need not to give into our fear. We need to grow our faith. We need to complain a little bit less and celebrate a little bit more. God, change our hearts, change our attitudes. Let us be excited about the fact that you break off shackles, that you set prisoners free. God, whoever is under the sound of my voice that needs to know that you have a hope for their life, a hope for their marriage, a hope for their future, a hope to redeem their past. God, I don't know what they need, but you do. I pray you would speak to each and every heart and help us to trust you. God, be with the man or the woman that needs to trust you for the very first time right now. God, allow them to open up their heart and put their faith in a God who loves them so much that he would die for them. God, I pray that each and every one of us would surrender. We would move out of the driver's seat and we'd let you be the one calling the shots. We'd let you have control of our life. We trust you for our salvation. God, I pray that if your people have already done that, that we would be more intentional about looking out for those who haven't found that freedom, who are weighed down by this world. Help us be the encouragers. Help us to love people the way you've called us to love them, even the ones that are hard to love. God, help us. We need you. We need your freedom. God, we need your hope. God, would you strengthen us and encourage us even now as we pray? It's in your name that we ask all of this. Amen.
What's up, Harbor Online crew? I just want to say once again, thank you so much for being with us today, for being a part of Harbor. Before you head out of here, I want to let you know about a few things that are going on. And just because you might be watching from home, maybe you're not able or not ready to be out and about at this time, totally understand. Does not mean you don't have an opportunity to serve your community. And we want to give you a chance to do that. So we are partnering with our neighbors across the street at Cape Regency Nursing Home. And those residents there, as you know right now, are having a tough time. They're not able to have visitors, at least not in the normal way. It can get pretty lonely. So they've asked us if we could get some of our people, and that's you, to be pen pals with them. So you can do it right from the safety of your home. And they will send the first letter, and then you just get to maybe once a month or so send them a card, send them a note. Just let them know that somebody on the Cape is thinking of them and loves them. So if that's something you want to get in on, you can send an email to Kimberly@Harbor.Church.com. She'll get you hooked up with a pen pal. It'd be a great way to really love our neighbors. And last but not least, we started our Connect groups. We've gone through 1 week of them already. There's still a chance to get in on them, but you gotta hurry because they are filling up. So whether or not you're ready to go in person yet, we've got some awesome Zoom options available for you. So once again, you can do it right from home and find that connection, find some growth, get what you're looking for without having to step out. And also, we've got, if you are ready to go in person, we've got those happening at the church. So normally we do them in homes. We're doing these at the church so that we can keep it safe, we can keep it spaced out, social distance. And they're more of a classroom style, so there's tons of opportunities to dig into some truth. There's parenting and finances and getting into the sermon. No matter what you're into, there is a Connect group for you, so I can't encourage you enough. Get in on those and get in fast. So you can find that and anything else you might be interested in, anything you might want to sign up for in the link at the end of the caption. Click there, see what's going on, let us know you joined us today. We'll see you next week.